It should be better than the Monday night one.
I was going to
Holy
say,
smokes.
dude, I'm usually on board with those bad ones, and I was going into that, but that was truly brutal.
That did play out sort of the way we said, where if this
Yeah.
was any game that Josh Jacobs was going to get a rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was resting in like the second quarter.
All three of I know. I look, that didn't surprise me one bit. Like
Me either.
We said the same thing. We said that and then it happened. All three running backs got a touchdown.
The backups look pretty good. I
Yeah.
can't say anything bad about them.
And it's the Saints. Listen, man, they gave up. The way I saw it, it's like you go into that game against the Commanders, right? You have a shot to win the game, and you don't get it. Remember, they went for two there. Darren Rizzi decided to go for two after they scored. They could have tied it up and taken it to overtime. When you decide to go for two, you're going, all right, this is it. Let's give it a whirl. They didn't convert. You knew they'd come out flat. That flat? Only team that gets shut out? Maybe not, but it is what it is. I don't know. I bet the Packers, so that was good. I didn't have a good DFS.
Dude, I feel bad that they have to play two more games. Like, I legitimately feel bad. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know. It stinks, man. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas. For those of you who celebrate, truly, I hope it was a good one. How was it for you, Matt Gajewski?
Christmas was good. Was on the show with Eric before lock, but games were mostly exciting for DFS. I'm not sure like real life was great, but we got to see great performances out of, Derrick Henry, Lamar, Mahomes had a great game, Worthy again. So DFS kind of saved the day, honestly. But otherwise, it was pretty good. Spent some time with the fam. How about you?
Good, man. Yeah, 3 and a 1-year-old. It's hectic. I got some drinking on though once we went to my in-laws. That was nice. I got off the schneid on 2-game slates, Matt. I chopped first for a cool $7K yesterday. Nothing crazy, but by God, those 2-gamers have killed me. Chopped first yesterday with a simple Sims run and a few little adjustments while my kids napped before we went over to the in-laws. Finally got off the schneid, brother.
Congratulations. Now you're going to have to move that forward to the 3-gamer on Saturday.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I know. Yeah, nothing crazy, but man, just those 2-gamers this year beat me up. Thanksgiving was good, 3-gamer, but yeah, that was good. All I did, you know what I did? I went in and I didn't even make any ROI adjustments or like projection boost, Matt. I just went in and went with 4 uniques, and I found I grabbed with 4 uniques the Lamar lineups I wanted, because I only played 20 lineups, and it was in the $25 entry. By the time I had looked, all of the big contests had filled at like 9 a.m. So there was another one that was the 100K to first. I just selected 4 uniques and then the amount of Lamar lineups I wanted, Mahomes lineups, and so on and so forth, just to try and get him as different as possible, throwing him in there in spray. And it turned out that like I only had, I think, 2 or 3 lineups that cashed, but fortunately I spread it around enough. But sometimes you can just make those little tweaks to the Sims and good things happen.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot. I've learned that through a lot of mistakes over the last 2 years at this point. And as you and I talk about a lot on showdowns, especially because we have to really get in the weeds with these guys, I'm often not really making adjustments unless it's uniques or just finding a way to smooth exposure to guys. And that's a risk tolerance thing. It's not even anything to do with the players themselves. And then if there is a situation I want to boost or bring down a projection, it has to be an uncertain situation. Otherwise, not really touching it. And so many people I've seen just run these at factory settings and are successful. So they really work. The projections, they're just fine if you have a good sim run.
How bad were the Texans, man? My God.
They were horrible. The offensive line is just unworkable right now, especially with the 2 guys out on the interior. It's already bad, and then you lose 2 guys. Stroud was fighting for his life, man.
Yep. I also think that's a tough game to get up for, knowing that you're essentially locked into the 4 seed. There's nowhere they can really go. They already clinched the division before that game. Speaking of getting up for games, by the way, guys, happy to have you with us. If you don't mind, take a single second, atone for your sins coming off the holiday. hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It's free, and it helps us feed the algorithm. You think maybe this show along the way has helped you out, provided some insight, entertainment, whatever it may be. That goes a long way for us. So thank you. And leave a comment down below. As always, love to see it. Einsteinium, I did not have Justin Watson in that lineup. It was the winning lineup in this contest did not have Justin Watson. It did not, as a matter of fact. So I think I was actually lucky to miss out on, I don't know what second place. I don't know. You guys can tell me. It was like 166 something was first place in this one. But I saw the lineups from the bigger one, and first place was like 168 or something. So I don't know. But Matt, talk about getting up for games. Seattle, I keep hearing people, and it's annoying the hell out of me because I just did a video on this on the Odd Shopper channel for this game. I keep hearing people go, Seattle's not eliminated yet, man. Big game for Seattle. Playoff implications on the line. And it's like, I don't think they're being disingenuous. I think they just haven't even put in 2 seconds to figure out what the situation is. This game is actually meaningless for Seattle. It doesn't actually mean anything. The only thing that matters for the Seahawks is if the Rams lose on Saturday against Arizona. If the Rams win this Saturday, it doesn't matter what the Seahawks do, okay? If they have all of the tiebreakers, because the Rams play the Seahawks in Week 18. Let me just set the table here because this kind of plays into the way I see this game. The Rams are playing the Seahawks to close out the year. Even if they have the same record at the end of the season, it doesn't matter if the Rams win this week. Nothing. The Rams have to lose this week. So if the Seahawks lose and the Rams lose, it's literally the same. Well, I won't say literally. I think it changed like one. It's the same thing as the Seahawks winning and the Rams losing. Doesn't matter. 4 tiebreakers. Rams hold them all. Or I'm sorry, they're all tied for those. Then you go to the 5th, it's strength of schedule, and the Rams dominate in strength of schedule wins, with wins against the Vikings, with wins against the Bills, so on and so forth. So all I'm saying here, Matt, they come into Chicago, they traveled there on Christmas Day after a deflating loss to the Vikings last week. Should have been a face masking penalty, but whatever. And now they go up against a bad Bears team, but in a game they all know doesn't actually mean anything. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's weird when you get into these situations because I still think most of the time these players are getting up for games. Even a lot of teams that are eliminated, teams are getting up for them. And in the off chance Seattle makes the playoffs, it's very, even with a win, you mentioned it. This is like the funniest if loss, if win probability I've ever seen. It's currently 14%. If they win, it jumps to 15. If they lose, it drops to 13. So yeah,
that's what I'm saying. But that's all because of the Rams. Like if the Rams lose on Saturday, the Seahawks chances are essentially 50-50. Yeah.
Which is crazy. Like I have the Rams if they lose at 57%. So yeah, it's much closer. But if this team does sneak their way into the playoffs, they have a lot of things they need to work on. So I don't think this is going to be a spot where you see guys resting, like not up for the games. To be honest with you, I think they just have severe limitations. The offensive line is horrible. Since I lost our center, this unit is basically unworkable. And Geno's been an absolute magician. Like imagine if this guy had a workable offensive line. Now you're playing the Bears, so this might not matter. And I expect them to have more success than they have against some better opponents they faced in recent weeks. But yeah, I mean, this team has fatal flaws. I don't think you can really just go out there with, I don't know, the effort they've been giving. So I'm expecting this to be a better outing for Seattle as a whole, largely just because of the opponent more than anything else.
I get that for sure. The Bears are bad, man. They're pitiful.
Real bad.
And by the way, if you're wondering why the Rams loss matters, it's because the Rams have a divisional game, right? So if the Rams lose the divisional game, that means that it all comes down to next week. Rams win, they finish with the better overall record. Rams lose against the Seahawks, they finish with the same record, but the Seahawks have the tiebreaker for divisional opponents. That's why it matters. The only thing that matters is the Rams. Anyway, let's get into this, Matt. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about this game. You have no Kenneth Walker. You have Geno Smith, who, look, I know he played, but the mobility could be a bigger issue there, dealing with that knee injury on a short week. And I think a guy like Zach Charbonnet is just one of those spots that you're going to end up clicking a lot of. Now, thankfully, DraftKings didn't make the same mistake that they've made in the past. Actually, that's not true. Yes, they did. Zach Charbonnet at 8,400 is still probably $1,500 underpriced. Like Charbonnet should probably be up there with the top price guys today.
Don't disagree with that at all. I absolutely think he should be. You could argue he should be the most expensive running back on this slate. In the 2 games without Kenneth Walker, he played 80% of the snaps, dominated opportunities. I think Zach Charbonnet is an awesome play. Plus, matchup stuff like spread stuff. Seattle's favored, and the path to least resistance against Chicago is on the ground. There's no question about that. It's just an absolutely awesome spot for a running back in a game where they should be winning and playing through this matchup advantage that they have.
Charbonnet is my highest exposed player right now.
No surprise there.
No, not at all. I have a lot of him today. And truthfully, Matt, I don't really see why you'd want to get away from him. You know, he played 80% of snaps in back-to-back games that Kenneth Walker missed. He played 96 and 84% of snaps in the 2 earlier games this season that Kenneth Walker missed. There's just, Kenny McIntosh is the other guy here. I know Charbonnet was limited last week. I think some of that had to do that the guy was not 100% because he was dealing with an oblique injury, but he's been off the injury report. Kenneth Walker's out. What do you think the snap share looks like today? Because I would honestly think it goes right back to, the 80-20 type spot between Charbonnet and McIntosh.
100% agree, unless we get a report that he's limited, which I would be shocked by given the injury report you just mentioned, not even on it. I think you got to project at least 80. And the other stuff would be if he doesn't play 80, it's probably some form of blowout, which in that case, the efficiency is awesome and he's still probably putting up an elite score. There's just very, very few ways around him.
Another guy too, though, at running back. I actually like DeAndre Swift a good amount today. I like both of these running backs. Again, I know it's gross to talk about these spots with how bad they've been. They don't run block well. I believe Jenkins has already been ruled out for Chicago as well. That doesn't help. But at the same time, DeAndre Swift, even with the return of Roschon Johnson, still played 73% of snaps. They fell behind early, so they weren't using him, a lot on the ground. But 9 of 10 running back carries still went to DeAndre Swift. They have gone away from throwing to the running backs a lot lately. But again, 3 targets last game, 3 receptions for 33 yards. Meanwhile, you've got a guy who returned in Roschon Johnson who had 1 carry and no targets. So I still think Swift, barring any, unforeseen changes they make to the backfield, still probably gets a very healthy amount of work here. And I have much more of him at flex than I do at captain. But just looking at his price point, a guy that is a starter that plays, 3/4 of the snaps at 7,600, yet another spot where I go, yeah, he hasn't been good lately. He's had difficult matchups. Seattle's actually struggled in run defense this year. 7,600 on Swift is another spot I'm going to be getting to.
I like Swift. The only concern I have is that was Roschon's first game back, and prior to the concussion, Roschon, and this kind of coincided with the, they had the OC change and then Brown gets elevated entirely. But like when they make some of those changes, Roschon snaps spike pretty severely at the expense of DeAndre Swift. Then he gets concussed. Now we have his first game back, 27% of the snaps versus 73 for DeAndre Swift. I think I'm still kind of in on DeAndre Swift because he's been removed from the injury report, which is surprising to me considering how banged up he's been recently. But I'm still a little nervous that this gets a little closer to a 50-50 split. And this is a situation where maybe you could consider making some boosts. I don't know if I'm going to. If everything remains consistent throughout the day, I probably won't, just because I didn't get a ton of DeAndre Swift captain. It was under 10%. And then if he's in the flex, I have no real problem with that. I might just honestly make a little boost to Roschon too in the event that he does end up with more work than we think.
I don't have much of a problem with Roschon either, to be honest with you. DeAndre Swift is perpetually incapable of finding the end zone on short yardage plays.
They pulled him towards the end of that run before the Roschon concussion. Roschon was the goal line back.
Yeah. Roschon has 9 goal line carries and 6 goal line touchdowns this year. Right? You look at the abilities there. By the way, if you're looking for a good value bet, it shows up with a positive edge in our live odds tool, which is free over at OddsShopper. Roschon is plus 470 to score today on FanDuel. It's a good value bet if you're looking to just sprinkle on that. I have no problem with him today. I still think that Swift gets, a healthy amount of work in this game, Matt, but it's hard to say. You know why else it's hard to say? Because you see the offensive coordinator change, but also Roschon returns in his first game since the head coaching change and only had 1 touch.
Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine Eberflus didn't have his hands really on that situation a lot, but the Bears are so dysfunctional, I truly can't tell you what they're doing. So that's why I think this is volatile. I have no idea what their plan is any given week. They're a horrible team.
I think Roschon's pretty interesting today. No issues there. I would also assume you're just getting very little ownership coming into a guy like that as well. What do we have his ownership at? Yeah, 4%.
I'm interested because I don't really like the value options down there. And I think there is a ceiling given the volatility and projection where I'm probably going to come up on him at the expense of guys like Lockett, the defenses. Kmet I actually like a fair amount, but I think there's fewer alternatives down in this range than normal weeks.
Well, let's break this down a little bit. How do you find value options on a Bears team that only uses 3 wide receivers, right? They only use 3 wide receivers. And then Cole Kmet, who, they just refuse to give this guy the football. It's insane. He'll play 90+% of snaps. They have no interest. Like, all right, you want to look towards Gerald Everett in hopes that he gets targeted on like 7 snaps? Okay, fine. Mercedes Lewis, who is unfathomably still in the league, he has what? 1 target this season? The Bears are one of the most difficult teams to find value on because they have, unlike the Broncos, who you and I talk about a lot this year, and several other spots, like the Saints, they have all full-time players, all of them.
I think Kmet's at a price now where I'm okay with him. He just continues to plummet. At 4.4K, I don't really have any issues with him. He's playing 90% of the snaps. There's going to be a lot of volatility with the Bears just because they suck. And I don't think any given week you'd be surprised if he has a spike target game. He has 2 games of double-digit targets this year. Again, they're not going to come very frequently, but that's the same number. It's 1 fewer game than Odunze. It's just a volatile target distribution. In the last 4 games, it's been really bad for Kmet. But I wouldn't be surprised if any given game it spikes back up. So at his price, and that's the biggest driver's price, I think you can play him. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of just Roschon, which I'm also comfortable with given the volatility in that situation. But otherwise, the Bears are pretty clean. It's pretty nice evaluating them. I think the preferences between the Bears come down to, would you rather play those guys or their defense? And I honestly think I'd rather take the shots on the volatile situational players rather than play this defense.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, when I'm talking about value, I mean like value. Getting below, I don't, no, because I'm glad you broke down the Cole Kmet thing. Because I'm 100% there with you on that. Just the guy's on the field enough to where on a showdown slate, when you're devoid of options, he's clearly viable. But if you get below a Cole Kmet, what do? You go into Colin Johnson, who that's my boy. But Colin Johnson and Tyler Scott, Matt, when I say you're literally hoping that they get a deep target or something on one of their 5 or 6 snaps, and that might be a lot, that is it.
I don't think you can play them. You're literally hoping for an injury. If you're going past like the Kmet range, it's Roschon Johnson or pass. You can't play those guys.
You can't. Eric asks, would you be overweight to Kmet in the captain and underweight in flex? That's actually a really good question. And I know exactly why he's asking that, because you mentioned that Cole Kmet has 2 games with double-digit targets, and then, Matt, he's essentially a ghost, right? Like, you've seen those 2 games with double-digit targets, one against Minnesota. That's a blitz-heavy team. That didn't surprise me at all. I was surprised he only saw 1 target against them a couple weeks ago. Another against Indy. And then outside of that, he had 1 other good game against Jacksonville. Aside from that, though, it's like, man, Cole Kmet, massively touchdown dependent. Listen to his targets. 2, 1, 0, 3, 10, 3, 4, 0, 1, 5, 4, 3, 11, 5, 1. That's you're throwing darts.
Absolutely. It comes down to, like, you're probably gonna have to play at least one value option. I generally am pretty happy with the guys that play like 90+% of the snaps. He's basically like Cade Otton last year. And a lot of times I was playing that guy to just fill things out. But how much do you want is a different question if you're playing 150 lineups. I generally don't like to be way over my skis on these bad players. That's why I think boosting some Roshan at the expense of Kmet, giving yourself a different build could make some sense. I got a lot of the Bears. I'll probably try to smooth that out as well. Don't love the defense just as a whole. Don't love either defense, to be honest with you.
Just throwing it out there. It's actually, I don't think I'll get much Cole Kmet at captain. Not because I disagree with that concept, with the kind of game theory around that. More so, Matt, because it's not hard to build lineups on this slate. In my opinion, 2 of the best plays are in the 7 and 8K range. Roma Dunze, he might not be exciting, but he's going to be out there almost the entirety of the game. This guy averages like 7 targets per game and once in a while pops off. There's no shortage of options in that range at all. JSN and DJ Moore are the most expensive, but Geno's not expensive. Caleb Williams isn't that expensive. It's actually not that hard to build lineups whatsoever. I'm looking at all of my lineups right now, and there aren't any of them where I'm going, oh my God, that's disgusting. Although there is one Tyler Scott lineup I see.
I didn't have that thought either. I thought you broke that down really well. You don't need to get down there. If you're running 150, you might find yourself with 1 or 2 lineups in that range. But yeah, I'm looking through my captain exposure right now. It's like Charbonnet, we way above the field on him if this holds. Smith and Jigba is an awesome play, and you can pretty easily get to him because of some of the value options. We'll talk about Seattle in a second that has a few more. The quarterbacks are relatively cheap given prices of quarterbacks sometimes on these slates. And then you mentioned Swift is fine. You have a healthy 7K wide receiver range because neither of these teams rotate a ton. It's pretty easy to build, and there's a lot of options, which I think helps with dupes and ownership and everything like that.
Anybody else you want to hit on for the Bears other than like a Kairos Santos?
If this holds, I will still likely give my usual rookie boost to Roma Dunze. Don't get a ton of him in the current construction of the slate. The Bears receiver I actually get the most of is Keenan Allen, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. I think he's run pretty hot on what he's gotten, and it looked like his latest touchdown was just a broken coverage. I think, first of all, DJ Moore is the most talented, and on a week-to-week basis, he's the best bet to lead the team in targets. Allen's probably second, but I'm always trying to be cognizant of this like age cliff for players like Keenan Allen, and the exact opposite with young ascending players like Odunze. And with their target shares being extremely flat, I'll likely apply that boost I've been doing, which hasn't worked, but bring Keenan Allen down, bring Odunze up, help with smoothing out the exposure between all three, not be way over my skis on it. An aging player in Allen.
I hear you. Man, Allen's been pretty good, though, recently. Got to hand it to him.
Yeah, when the defense doesn't cover you and you score a touchdown, it's pretty easy to be good. Do you see that touchdown? They just like, where's the defender?
Down the right sideline.
Yeah, like, what the hell is going on?
I had a lot of Keenan Allen. So, yeah, I did. That was almost as bad as the Texans forgetting to play defense for that play action to pass to Mark Andrews yesterday. That was terrible. Even the broadcast team was like, what? Like they're going like, that's the most textbook type play right there. And they just weren't ready at all. But
how slow is Mark Andrews?
What's that?
How slow is Mark Andrews?
Oh my God. On that 60-yarder, man. He knew it too, which is that's what I love about guys like him. He got up and he had a huge smile on his face. not because he ripped off a 60-yard reception. He had a huge smile because he knew his teammates were going to shit on him for that. And he knew that there's no reason he should have got stopped there.
Yeah, so slow.
But I'll tell you what, Keenan Allen, even in that game, still had 9 receptions on 13 targets for 141. Even if you took that touchdown away, you're talking like 8 for around 100.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've just made this mistake a lot. I'm not going to get rid of Keenan Allen by any means. Think he's a fine play, but I don't ever want to be the guy that misses out on the Odunze breakout. I missed the Jackson Smith-Njigba breakout for exactly the same reasons we're talking about. And maybe, the Lockett Smith-Njigba situation was a little bit more predictable. But yeah, I'm just not going to miss that anymore. That's the whole analysis for it.
That's fair. I like Odunze regardless. Just because when there's a guy at that price, Matt, and he's constantly on the field, right? They only run 3 receivers, and Cole Kmet disappears legitimately 80% of the time. There's a good potential that Rome Odunze has that, 8-target game today, and I'm on board. Let's look at ownership discrepancy, by the way, between these guys. So if you're looking at ownership projections for Odunze, Allen, and Moore, you have, let me sort by ownership. By the way, you guys want access to the Sims tool. 2 ways to do it. One, Sims Max, get a massive discount. It's like $120+ discount. You're getting Sims Max, Sim up to 10,000 lineups, all of our tools. It's what I used yesterday to chop first on the Wednesday, Christmas Day slate. And I barely did anything. So pretty excited about that. All you got to do is run the Sims, and you can make adjustments any way you want. But this is Sims Max. Get it throughout the remainder of the NFL season, all the way through the Super Bowl for $179. And you still have around 8 weeks to go. Thursday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday games all coming up. $179. Normally it's $200 for the month. You're basically getting two full months for less than the price of one. So use the promo code CELEBRATE at checkout. That link's in the description and in the chat. Or if you just wanted to sign up using a sportsbook or any pick'em site that you want, you can do that and get the core package, $100 value, 100% free. I mean that too. Not only free, you're getting bonus bets and deposit matches on whatever book you sign up at. Just use the 4 steps. Click that link where it says sign up with any sportsbook, get a month free. Deposit $10 or $5, whatever the minimum is. Make a bet. You got to click claim offer, otherwise it doesn't work. And the moment that bet settles, just send us a screenshot to support@stokastic.com with your first settled bet screenshot of your welcome email from whatever sportsbook, and you've got a free month. That you say, I want to make better lineups, I want to win more money. You can do it for free and get paid by the sports books essentially to do so. So that's another great way to get in. If you guys wanted to jump in on the tools, still a lot of football to go. 21 years or older to gamble. Gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. And remember, if you were to sign up at like 3 sports books or 3 pick'em sites, that's 3 months of core for whatever sports you want. Matt, Keenan Allen, 28% at flex, 8% at captain. DJ Moore, 28% at flex, 10% at captain. Rome Odunze, 21% at flex, 3.5% at captain. Do you feel any certain way about that? Because it's probably the way it should be, right?
I got a little bit less Rome, but it could just be like small tweaks in the settings. And make sure you really hone your settings for what you're playing. It does make a big difference. So it could just be something like that where we're playing slightly different contests. But yeah, I like your exposure is better than what I got, which it's not drastically different, but it's more like Rome in the single digits with Keenan.
No, those were projected ownership on those guys. I was just getting your thoughts. That's the ownership is basically identical between Moore and Keenan Allen, and then Odunze is much lower, particularly a captain.
I think it makes sense given their roles. But yeah, I guess I'm a little surprised if Odunze is so low owned, why he's not projecting better in the Sims, because their target distributions are not drastically different.
True. We'll build a lineup out with a single lineup Sim as we always do and see how that goes for us. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right. Let's talk Seattle. You and I have not talked about this yet, so I'm genuinely wondering where you're going with not the JSNs, because he's an easy player that we're going to want to get a decent amount of today. Not even DK Metcalf, because he's also a guy where I don't have a ton of him, but look, the guy still gets targeted in the end zone. They have 2 top dogs in the passing game, despite an underwhelming season. And I think he probably still has something going on with the shoulder and the knee. He's still a quality enough option. Feel free to dive into them, but I'm real curious where you go with guys like Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, AJ Barner, those type of guys, because we're probably going to have to get there for some value today.
In their price ranges, I'm pretty interested in them. Fant is the player I like the most, and it's really just in comparison to Lockett. Lockett is just like, I don't know, man. The cliff came real fast for him. I was not expecting it. He's aged like 10 years in 1 year. He looks horrible, not even just his performance. Like, look at him. I don't know what happened to him. And now we're seeing his snaps come down. The targets are non-existent. They're playing more 12 personnel at his expense. Like Jake Bobo is playing a quarter of the snaps every game. He's not cheap enough for me to really want to play at this point. And that brings me to some of the other cheap players on this team. Noah Fant, just a slight price uptick for him, but you're getting more consistent volume, and it's like dwarfing Tyler Lockett. Lockett has 3 targets over the last 2 games. Fant has 13. It's like they're not using Lockett whatsoever anymore. So I'll just find the 400 to play Fant, or I'll go to a different price tier way towards the bottom and play some of the rotational tight ends, because these are where those extra Lockett snaps are going to, like Barner at this point, who has more targets than Tyler Lockett. I mean, you can go back a pretty decent while and Barner's out targeting him on a fraction of the snaps. So Lockett's kind of unplayable to me.
Isn't it amazing the precipitous fall off here? Like, it just,
dude, I get it. He's wrinkled, he's balding, he looks horrible. I don't know what he did in the offseason, but
I'm not saying it came out of nowhere, but my God, like it's, and the crazy thing is, it's not even like his snap count has seen a massive decline. He's still playing 70% of snaps. He just, and I would assume, I didn't look, but Matt, I assume his route participation is still, commensurate with the amount of snaps he's playing, but he's just not getting targeted. You're right. He simply isn't getting targeted at all. Would you rather go to a $3,200 Lockett or, Noah Fant? Actually, I have a good one for you. Would you rather go, you're playing a single entry lineup. Don't smile. You're going to appreciate this. Would you rather go to a $3,200 Tyler Lockett? Let's say, that $15 single entry you and I like, right?
Yeah.
I think not the huddle. It's the whatever. Who cares? It's the $15 single entry. Would you rather go to that $3,200 Lockett or a $2,600 Roschon Johnson?
I think I would rather play Roschon.
Interesting.
I reserve the right to change this. I got to really think about how I think the Bears running back split's going to go today. And this could just be, man, I might be overreacting to Lockett's fall off. But what's the upside with him? Roschon at least has projectable upside in his range of outcomes. We saw it on like a 4-game stretch. If he goes back to that role, and again, 2nd game removed from a concussion, maybe there is some upside. He's also been the goal line back at points this season. Like, what has Lockett done at all? And I know you don't personally think this, but like, what has Lockett done that we think has any sort of upside?
Nothing. Outside of the fact that he's on the field a lot. That's the only other thing. He's on the field a decent amount.
I'll tell you this. I won't play 0. If I was building one lineup, he wouldn't be in it. I don't think he's going to be in a large portion of them. But, I mean, if you're running 150, a 3,200 guy that plays almost every snap, it's almost like the Cole Kmet analysis. Like, you kind of have to play some.
Yep.
But he's not a priority.
He's not a priority for me. I think I probably like him a little bit more than you do, only because it's a showdown slate and the guy sees the field. and he's $3,200. Clearly, this is not the same Tyler Lockett as even last year. JSN has taken a big stride forward. Like Tyler Lockett is, what would you say, the fourth passing option right now in the passing game? But
yeah,
maybe fifth if you want to put him behind Barner.
Or like a running back. Charbonnet is a great role.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Yeah. But he's 3,200. So I'll put it like this. I love to break the slate down this way. Once we get below the dead zone, right? So get below your backup quarterbacks in the dead zone, because right above that is beautiful. Odunze is fine. Swift at 76. Charbonnet at 84. Those guys in that 8K range, and like between 7 and 8K look good. Once you get below, it's Santos, it's Komet, it's Seahawks, which obviously viable today. I think Bears defense is even viable. Might gross you out, but I'm not totally getting away from Bears defense either. Plus, only Kirk Cousins has thrown more interceptions than Geno Smith this year. This guy's had some really bad red zone interceptions recently that you could argue has hurt this team a lot. I know, offensive line, sure. But either way, Noah Fant, Tyler Lockett, A.J. Barner, Roschon Johnson. We didn't really talk about McIntosh. He's down there. I don't think he's, awful, because he'll get some work. I have 2% right now. Then you have guys like Jake Bobo, who this guy just, if anything, it's like 1 7-yard reception. That's who we're working with down there. Am I missing anyone?
No, I don't think you're missing anyone. It's really bad. I think you can play some McIntosh, just 1 for 1. I would prefer Roschon, given the upside. I think McIntosh kind of needs Charbonnet to be limited in this game, probably because of the injury, for him to see any sort of touch ceiling or even pay off that price tag. Whereas Roschon could be in a timeshare. He could be the goal line back. There's a lot of paths for him. And then otherwise, it's not fantastic once you get below the Lockett and Noah Fant range. I guess Bobo would probably be my favorite. You could potentially mix him in for large field stuff. He kind of profiles as sort of a red zone receiver. He had one of the worst combines I've ever seen in my entire life. He ran like a 4.95 40. But he's like a big perimeter receiver, a big bodied guy. So he's going, if he gets a target, maybe it's close to the red zone. But otherwise, I would rather just play like a Barner down here, who actually is involved in the offense. It's not a great price tag on him. Like 3K is, I would certainly rather play Roschon, but I won't X Barner, I guess is how I'll say it.
I'm not going to X him. I'm also not going to boost him. I'll tell you that.
Why is he 3K? He did
I don't know.
a touchdown.
He should be like 1,800.
The only other guys I think that are worth mentioning, I think Seattle's going to bring back up George Halani. He's horrible, but he's $400. If they use a third back, it'll be him. And same thing with Darrington Evans for the Bears. Homer's out. They use a third back, it'll likely be him. But clearly they just have – I don't think either team has any intention of actually putting those guys on the field.
Probably don't need to. Joe Knows Best asked, defense or a cheap player, Fant, etc. Sims are giving me the defenses. Both. I have no aversion to defense today on either side, honestly. Bears, Seahawks, but I also have a good amount of Noah Fant. I have a decent amount of Cole Kmet. Like, I'm looking at my exposures in flex. Forget about captain. And of players 15% and up, I have Seahawks D, that's cheap. Cole Kmet. If you want to include Jason Myers and Santos, Noah Fant, Bears defense, all of those guys are in that sub 5K range, and I have 15+% of all of them.
I didn't get higher than 38% on any of them, which is, I think, pretty good. Like, I don't want to come in overexposed to any of these players or these units, and it's because they're all bad. Like, the Bears defense, bad. Could their defensive line have success against a bad Seattle offensive line? Sure. So you can kind of see it both ways. Maybe they just get roasted by Geno, or maybe that D-line has some success against an equally bad O-line. You could do that exact same analysis against Caleb Williams, who you mentioned Geno's turnover propensity. It's not like Caleb Williams has been any good. So, yeah, Seattle's defense is limited, but if they have a good game against a bad QB, no one would be surprised. And then all these players that are like 3K or cheaper that play a lot, the expectation should be they don't have a great game, but if like Fant pops up for 6 or 7 targets, no one would be surprised. Same thing with Komet. So I like rotating them. They're all volatile, and I'm happy the Sims kind of led me that direction to begin with.
The running man asks, can I ask the championship match question? Kind of has to do with, I don't understand. Who do I start at quarterback? Nix, Love, or Caleb Williams? All right. Well, not Caleb for me.
Agreed.
This is interesting because you have the Broncos against the Bengals. Believe it or not, it's actually an important spot for the Broncos and for the Bengals. A win seals it for the Broncos, although they're going to face Kansas City next week, who probably sits their starters. We've seen Andy Reid always do that. But Bengals aren't going to lay down, but their defense is so bad. So it would be Bo Nix on the road against the Bengals or Jordan Love on the road against the Vikings. Big game there.
I think I prefer Nix.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but man, this Packers-Vikings game has true shootout vibes to me. I think I'd probably
disappoint too. I could see it both ways.
I would go Knicks, I think, but I'll put it to you this way: it's not Caleb.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, both teams have. I guess both games have good totals. Seeing Denver, Cincinnati at 49 right now. Packers game at 48.5. The under's taking money there. But to me, it comes down to both teams want to run. Knicks is a lot more involved in their team's run game. And the defense that they're facing is a lot worse, to be honest with you. Cincinnati's defense is awful. Minnesota's a good defense.
Yeah, they do. Opportunistic. All right. Have we missed anything? Let me scroll down. Let me make sure, because we'll be back tonight as well. Greg Ehrenberg and myself, live before lock. We got you covered for this one. We didn't spend a ton of time on Moore and Allen, but those guys are just, to me, like all three of those guys are super viable because they're the only ones on the field. Gino and Caleb, I guess, would be a good spot for us to finish this off because Charbonnet, we don't need to say much there. Both kickers are viable. I'm getting currently more Santos. I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm getting more Santos. Let's see. Is there anything else? Yeah, I guess let's talk about the quarterbacks because I've got both of them as two of my highest exposed flex guys today.
I do too, and I think that makes sense. I have a little bit more Caleb. I think the attempts will be on his side, and he does have a little bit more mobility than Gino. You might not think so given the crazy sacks Caleb Williams takes, but he does have some mobility. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that. I think you're just going to see raw attempts in favor of him. Up at the top, I do think DJ Moore is the best pairing option if you're going to stack some sort of Bears pass-catching game. But I'm definitely not going to exclude Gino. I imagine I'll have a lot of lineups that include both of them in the flex with something like a Charbonnet captain. And personally, I think the Smith and Jigba price is worth it. DK Metcalf has been getting annihilated in the media this week for playing like Calvin Austin as a big athletic receiver who just doesn't use his gifts. And it's kind of funny, but I mean, to that point, there's a little bit of squeaky wheel stuff with DK, and he's a very, very talented player. I still think Smith and Jigba's worked firmly ahead of him, and I would, as projected, we have a gap. I think that's correct. I got a gap in the Sims. I think that's also correct. I don't think it goes back, but at least worth mentioning, DK's got a little bit of squeaky wheel stuff to him.
Yeah, he might just go out there and kill someone today.
Yeah, he might, because he's getting called like a coward and I don't know, Kavontae Turpin. It's actually pretty funny. And I think it is warranted. He's playing like a small receiver and not using any of his skills. Marvin Harrison's kind of doing the same thing. It's like, buddy, you're huge. You're an enormous athlete. Like, go up and make a contested catch. Stop letting it go to your body and playing like a small diminutive receiver.
I really wonder if he's not healthy. This guy's got like the shoulder, the knee, all that stuff. I don't know. It does make me wonder.
They should put him on the injury report then for his sake because he is getting annihilated by the media.
You know, Caleb Williams has the 7th most rushing yards among quarterbacks this year.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, he actually is someone that can. You're not going to get those huge Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, even Kyler Murray type games, Josh Allen, but yeah, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, Hurts, Murray, Allen, and Richardson are the only guys ahead of him. He has almost 450 rushing yards. If if you actually look at these games, he's giving you a consistent, 3 points on the ground. Not to say that that's a lot, but 34, 27, 39, 33, 70. That's 5 of the last 6 weeks. It's not that bad.
No, he did that in college a fair amount too. I'm not surprised. He's a higher ranking rusher than I thought, which I guess is kind of a feather in his cap. But I mean, their offensive line's terrible. He's constantly evading pressure, leading to scrambles. It also leads to sacks, which just kills drives and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we care about the DFS stuff, the fantasy scoring stuff. And if he gives you a little bit of that, I think it's a solid tiebreaker between him and Geno.
Yeah, I do too. I will say, though, and not to sound like I'm just beating around the bush, but I don't really have – to me, Caleb and Geno look the same today.
I think that's correct because all of the Caleb stuff we just talked about, like the rushing equity, the potential elevated pass attempts, I think it's sort of neutralized by Seattle just being favored and expected to score more points. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Although, man, I was surprised. Geno's, I guess not too surprised. Geno's passing prop is a lot higher than Caleb.
He's been so good throwing the ball.
Yeah. He's accurate. But then he just makes these what?
He's wild.
But then he's accurate most of the time, and then he throws a ball, and you go, "What was that?" And just an end zone interception down by 4. It's like, dude, what were you thinking?
If you're not a fan of Seattle, he's so fun to watch because he's constantly never taking the easy option that's open. He's always taking this high level difficulty throw, and it leads to these amazing highlights. And then you get the other plays that you're talking about. The interceptions late in games, the backbreaking drives. It's wildly entertaining if you're not emotionally invested.
It's Jameis Winston, but actually good.
Good Jameis Winston.
Yeah. I think we hit it, man. It might be time to build a lineup here.
Yeah, let's do it. This is I've been building this morning, and it's kind of tricky.
Let's do it. Guys, last day, if you're trying to get in on Portfolio EV, I said this to someone the other day, a buddy of mine. It doesn't matter really what you make, what you do. This has just been a way to make money consistently. Like if there was ever a way to give yourself, we're adults now. If you ever want to give, I said on Monday, I was like, dude, sign up Monday. You have 27 combined NBA and NHL games. I crushed on Monday night. Greg crushed. All of us using Portfolio, all of our subs absolutely crushed on Monday heading into a day off on Christmas Eve. The promo is Gift EV. It's a market-based approach. We're finding discrepancies in the market, using sharp sources to get the true odds. And even if none of this means anything to you, who cares? You know what I mean, Matt? Like if people still have to learn what we're talking about, who cares? The learning curve on something like this is not that difficult, and we have tutorials. So I think a lot of times people are like, well, I don't know what any of this means. I don't want to try it. When really, you can dive straight in. Like you can dive straight in and start profiting with this approach with the mass entry tool because you can get hundreds of bets down a day.
I mean, depending on your unit size, if you're betting like hundreds of dollars in some of these bets, you're going to make thousands of dollars. If you're betting like in the 10s, 20s, like you can make hundreds of dollars. At some point, it's just like how many threads of people profiting? Like how much do you really need to see before you know this works? I don't ever want to call something just like an absolute layup because there certainly is risk with it. I don't want to downplay it to a certain degree, but we have such a long sample and so many guys doing this. Like the proof is in the pudding. You need to be using this and it won't be around forever. Like take advantage of something while this is available. It's going to be a huge boost to your bankroll. Big
time. And to your point, talking about like big bets, my average bet size is well under $100 because the books won't allow you to get the bets down. Most of them, there's ways to keep your account in decent health, but you can't just go in there and throw 300 on every bet, at least not right away. I wouldn't even recommend it because then you put yourself on the radar. But I'm just like saying you don't need, there's so many bets that it's volume. It's the volume beats the variance. So check it out. Gift EV. This is the very last day. If you want to check it out, links down there. You'll see it. Portfolio EV, 50% off. So it's $50 for the entirety of the month. This is an investment more than anything else. It's not a luxury buy. This is an investment, right? And you want to see a return on that, which everyone I've seen who used it has. Anyway, Gift EV at checkout with that link in the description. And if you have questions, DMs are always open. Feel free to hit me up or reach out to guys in Discord as well. All right, Matt, who do you want to start with at captain?
I want to use the Seattle pass catcher. I kind of want to make a JSN lineup.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to fight you on that.
Because he is the most expensive player. So I want to test this out.
I want to throw Swift in at the flex.
All right. I think we put Geno in. Just complete that pairing.
So we've got JSN. We have DeAndre Swift. We have Geno Smith. Okay. Well, you know what? He's a great pass catcher, Zach Charbonnet. Can we make all of this work? Let's see what we have to do if we go Charbonnet here.
We absolutely can. You end up playing like a Komet and a defense or something like that, but there's plenty of ways you could do it. And you could even play. I'll play Fant. Let's open this up a little bit. Give you some choices.
All right. Actually, I like this because I want to see just how chalky something like this becomes. But it might not be crazy chalk if we go 5-1.
So who are we throwing in to finish it out?
What do we have? 57? Jason Myers.
I think he's completely fine.
One thing I love doing when I'm playing around with this single lineup sim is make 1v1 swaps at the end. So, like, let's see what Jason Myers compared to Cairo Santos looks like, Matt. Like, let's see if just a kicker makes a huge difference.
The 5-1 build is in. I'm curious how it looks like 5-1 versus 4-2.
Ooh, look at her. That's a beauty. 149.4.
I like that a lot.
Let's see what it looks like with Santos.
Absolutely. Then we're getting some calls for some Bears stuff, which you got me kind of thinking about it. Like, what does a Swift captain lineup look like? So I see Einsteinian talking about that. I'm also curious about that.
Let's try it. After this runs, we'll build a Swift at captain.
So I kind of like those.
You do or don't?
I do, with the high variance because of the roll there too.
All right, so both of these look good. I'm not shocked, though, to see the Myers one better because a 5-1 like that, I think, is just a less chalky build.
I agree.
Rand said, was it 2-5-1 just? I don't know. I didn't play the showdowns. I only played the main 2-game slate yesterday.
So did I.
All right, let's go Swift captain.
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, then you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to throw in. I'm going to go Keenan Allen here.
So we probably want Caleb, I would imagine.
Definitely. We can still go JSN here. It'll be pretty easy, I think.
Then we can't go Charbonnet.
Right.
That'll be an interesting build. This is going to be extremely contrarian.
Let's try it without Zach Charbonnet. My guess is it doesn't sim out well just because of how well Charbonnet is projecting, but I'm willing to try it. Thanks, Coach Sav, for the super chat. Yeah, Jordan, as Matt and I talk through, we'll build one more after this because we got a couple minutes. After we run this one, run that one for Coach Sav, and then we'll do one more.
All right, I'm going to throw in Komet.
All right. So far it's a 4-1. Interesting. Do we go Bears defense?
Yeah, let's try that.
That's what's fun about this. We can figure out what works, what doesn't early on.
It's nice getting this done with and then coming back to it later, and then you have the projection changes, the ownership changes, and actives, and you already have a good idea. but it helps you doing these exercises.
Absolutely. All right, 37. That's not bad.
No, not terrible.
Jordan, run that for Coach Sav right now, and then Matt and I are going to talk through one more build. So I think the way we could close this out. What if we ended up going Charbonnet just to see how unique of a build we can get with Charbonnet at captain? Because so far we've done JSN and Swift. We haven't done one with Charbonnet. We both know that he's going to be pretty popular right now. We have him with 16% captain ownership. That's the highest of anyone on the slate.
And I would not be surprised if this creeps up a little bit throughout the day. Price adjusted, when you look at his projection, he's just so awesome. He's not quite at, like the Lamar, where do we want to play him, rather than, like, do we play him or do we not play him? But he's pretty close. So I'm interested to see what Charbonnet lineups look like. Do we need to do something weird like Seattle Onslaughts to make it look nice? Do we need to leave salary on the table? It's a question I have as well.
Possible. Jordan, what's going on over here? Why is it taking so long to run this lineup?
I got confused if it was DK Metcalf or is it like on DK, this lineup? I don't even know if it's players.
DK Metcalf, so plug JSN in there and then it's done. Plug Jackson Smith and Jigba in and then run that. Let's take a guess, Matt. DK Metcalf, Allen, Roshan, Geno, Seahawks. It's almost zeroed out. That might not be terrible. I just don't know how Metcalf at captain's going to do. Yeah.
This is a large field lineup. I don't hate it because I'm probably going to do some boosts on a Roshan.
I don't hate this as much as the Sims does right now. But to your point, if you boost Roshan Johnson, it looks a lot better.
Yes. With Roshan specifically, you need to come into this knowing he has a volatile projection. Again, I'm trying to make as few adjustments as possible, but Roshan is one of the guys I could see making an adjustment on him and Swift because of the role. And if you do that, it's going to look better. And that's not saying the sim is wrong. The sim is taking the projections you give it and then giving you an output. So if you think the Roshan projection should be higher, it's going to give you a more accurate output given those parameters.
Then you would essentially lower the Swift projection as well.
I would definitely do something that corresponds. And that's what I think making smart adjustments is. To me, like, you have to find a hole in some sort of projectable role. And if you think Roshan comes up, then Swift probably comes down. Or, I guess just like zero Darrington Evans maybe, but he's already basically at zero. It's not really.
Yeah, I just wouldn't want people to, boost projection on Roshan and not touch Swift. And then you want like that. There's a relationship there for sure.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap it up with this. DK Metcalf out of the captain spot, and in goes Zach Charbonnet. That price on him's crazy. No surprise I'm getting a ton. So should we try the onslaught here?
Yeah. So Geno.
JSN.
You probably got to go Fant or Lockett, right?
Yeah.
All right, now we're kind of in a nice spot. We kind of have our pick of whatever bear we want.
This isn't bad at all. Charbonnet, JSN, Geno Smith, Noah Fant gives us 7,100 still.
Yeah, we can play whatever bear we want. The only one I would say probably is not good for this build is Odunze, because we're going to leave like 2K on the table.
Yeah. We go DJ Moore.
Yeah, we haven't used him yet either in one of these.
No. To me, Seahawks D here is the answer.
I agree.
I would think this sims well. I don't know. Maybe it's too chalky, Matt. That would be my only concern. On paper, this looks fantastic.
Agreed. This is the great thing about the sim. Sometimes you get humbled when things are too chalky, but we'll see. No, it's a little chalky, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's not bad, but again, it goes back to we built a 5-1 Bears that simmed out at 149 just because I don't think you're going to see a lot of those.
Yeah, I agree. And the big difference I'm noticing is the win percentage. Like they have almost the same cash percentage. I think that one was 43. This is 41.5. But that win percentage was up higher than this one. And the top 10 was up higher. So it probably a little less likely, like that original one, more likely to cash and win. This is a little bit less likely to win because of the chalkiness.
For sure. All right. Hey, appreciate you guys hanging out as always. We will be back here tonight, live before lock. You got NBA deeper dive live before lock. Bunch of stuff coming up. I just released a video over on the Odd Shopper channel. Picks for this one, side, props, touchdowns, you name it. Matt, what do you got going on before we get out of here?
Oh, man, a ton of stuff. Bulls are really heating up. 3 today, 5 tomorrow. There's like 7 on Saturday. And then next week, we get the return of the playoff, the quarterfinals, which is going to be huge. There's going to be some mega slates for those. If you want to check out the Sims, you still have plenty of time. We got a month left of college football. I would recommend doing it now to maximize what you can play, but there's still a ton of college football left on the table.
Is that promo still live to get everything for like $59 or something?
It was yesterday, unless they changed it.
Man, there's a million different ways to get access to these tools for a great price right now, and they're just the best tools out there, man. Let me see. Is it still there? Yeah, college football DFS sale, 65% off. College football max. Matt does the projections. All of the inputs going into the Sims are from Matt, and nobody in the world spends more time, which is why nobody's making more money in college than people using these Sims for college football. It's all down there. You guys have questions, please hit us up. We'd love to have you join the family over at Stokastic too. Genuinely, always happy to help out. But aside from that, you want to just check out free content, that works too. You always know where to find us. Greg and I will be back here tomorrow. Sims tournament strategy, 10 Eastern. And we'll see you tonight. Yeah, we'll see you tonight. Wrap up. This is the last Thursday night football game of the year, man.
Oh yeah, that's wild. Because they play all on Sunday next week, right?
Yep.
For week 18.
So you and I think we'll only have 2 more shows together. We have Monday for week 17. And then we're going to have probably a strategy show for Monday on the wild card round.
I can't believe it's come this far already, man. It's wild.
I know. Anyway, appreciate you guys. Awesome season so far. We'll wrap it up over the next couple of weeks and see you back here soon. Peace.